Remembering Birsa Munda on Janjatiya Gaur of Divas. L. Murugan writes, he was one of the tallest icons of India's freedom movement, and his contributions, along with others who were part of the struggles organized by tribal communities, must be acknowledged. Birsa Munda, Twitter Dr. Jitendra Singh. As India celebrates Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, one name stands tall among the galaxy of stars who fearlessly worked for the freedom of the motherland against the oppressive British Raj, Bhagwan Birsa Munda. Birsa Munda lived a short, just 25 years, but valiant life. His life story, full of gallant efforts to fight injustice and oppression, represents a strong voice of resistance against colonialism. Born on November 15, 1875, in Ulahatu village in present-day Jharkhand, Birsa spent his childhood in abject poverty in a tribal Munda family. This was the time when the exploitative Raj started penetrating the deep jungles of central and eastern India, disrupting tribals living in harmony with nature. The British introduced a feudal zamindari system in the Chota Nagpur region, destroying the tribal Kuntkati agrarian system. The Raj brought in the outsiders, moneylenders and contractors, as well as feudal landlords, who aided the British in their exploitation. The unrelenting missionary activity continued with the active support of the Raj, insulting and interfering with the religious cultural ethos of Adivasis. Young Birsa grew up watching all this and began to understand how these colonial forces and the Daikas, outsiders, enemies, worked against the interests of the local people. This firmed up his resolve to fight this unholy nexus. During the 1880s, Birsa closely witnessed the Sardara Larai movement in the region, which demanded the restoration of tribal rights through non-violent methods like sending petitions to the Raj. However, the oppressive colonial regime paid no heed to these demands. The zamindari system soon reduced the tribals from the status of landowners to that of laborers. The feudal setup intensified the forced labor, veth bigari, in the forested tribal areas. The exploitation of tribals now reached a breaking point. This culminated in Birsa taking up the cause of Adivasis. He shed new light on the religious domain. He stood firm against missionaries who were belittling tribal life and culture. At the same time, Birsa worked to refine and reform religious practices, discouraged many superstitious rites. He brought in new tenets, prayers and worked to restore tribal pride. Birsa impressed upon the Adivasis the importance of Surmer Farun Raja Jai, or victory to the ancestral king, thus invoking the sovereignty of the tribal's ancestral autonomous control over the land. Birsa became a mass leader, and began to be considered as Bhagwan and Darati Abbar by his followers. Birsa knew who the real enemy was. In addition to the Daikas, it was the oppressive Raj. He was clear that Abua Raj Satar Jana, Maharani Raj Tundu Jana, let the kingdom of the Queen end and our kingdom be established. Bhagwan Birsa ignited the minds of the masses. The Mundas, Arayans, other Adivasis and non-Adivasis responded to his call and joined the Ulgulan, or revolt against the colonial masters, and exploitative Daikas. Birsa asked the people not to pay any rent, and attacked the outposts of feudal, missionary and colonial authorities. With traditional bows and arrows, the tribals of central and eastern India waged an effective armed resistance against the British. In doing so, however, Birsa was careful that only the real exploiters were attacked, and the common people were not troubled. Birsa became an image of vitality and divinity. Soon, he was captured by British police and lodged in jail, where he died in captivity on June 9, 1900. But Bhagwan Birsa Munda's spirited struggle did not go in vain. It compelled the British to take cognizance of the plight and exploitation of tribals, and bring in the Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act of 1908 for their protection. This act restricted the transfer of tribal land to non-tribals, giving Adivasis a huge relief, and became a landmark legislation for the protection of tribal rights. The British regime also took steps to abolish veth bigari or forced labor. Bhagwan Birsa Munda continues to inspire millions of Indians, 121 years after his death. He is an icon of valor, courage and leadership. He was a leader who took great pride in his rich culture and great traditions, but at the same time, did not shy away from reforming his own faith wherever necessary. He is one of the tallest icons of our freedom movement. India's freedom struggle was strengthened by several tribal communities such as Mundas, Arayans, Santhals, Tamers, Kols, Bhils, Khasas, Koyas and Mizos, to name a few. The revolutionary movements and struggles organized by tribal communities were marked by their immense courage and supreme sacrifice, and inspired Indians all over the country. However, established historians could not do justice to their immense contribution to India's freedom struggle. Our visionary Prime Minister Narendra Modi appealed to all Indians to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and to study and understand the valor and sacrifice of many such unsung heroes in India's freedom struggle. Under his dynamic leadership, for the first time, Tribal pride and contributions are being given a fitting tribute by celebrating Janjatiya Gaurav Divas on November 15th, the birth anniversary of Bhagwan Birsa Munda. On this Janjatiya Gaurav Divas, let us remember and recognize the efforts of India's tribal people for the preservation of their cultural heritage and the promotion of Indian values of valor, hospitality, and national pride.